Warrant Officer E. Ripley. Said license is hereby suspended indefinitely. Now, no criminal charges will be filed against you at this time, and you are released on your own recognizance. These proceedings are closed.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Do you like aliens? Do you like space marines? Do you love a strong female protagonist who could smile a little more? How about a film that gives you evil, slimy corporate guys doing evil guy corporate stuff because money? Well, I have the movie for you. Stories. Simple stories, perfectly told. In a world where communism is a dream of the distant past and of space marines. No, not those space marines.
What the?
It's a movie that takes the premise of a sci-fi movie mashed up with a horror film and breeds it with the Predator, creating something for all ages.
Now what the fuck are we supposed to do?
It's a science fiction masterpiece, it's a horror film masterpiece, it's an action masterpiece. From the director that brought you the film where hippie blue people fight evil corporations to save trees, and the film where a single mom finds love with a robot who will sacrifice himself for her special little boy while not wanting a romantic relationship so he can fight against an evil corporation to save humanity, comes the sci-fi tale of a strong, independent woman who learns that being a mother is more important than working in a loading dock for the rest of her life, while fighting against an evil corporation. It's Aliens, 1986.
Do something!
Oh my God, fellas, it's so good to see ya. What can I say? We are on that, hold on a second, let me move this. There we go. There we go. Let's get back to it. Let's get centered in the frame. We're going to clip this. We're going to clip this. I know this is blasphemy, but I've never watched Alien. Oh, good sir. You are in for a treat then. You're in for a treat. Aliens. The movie that was so good, they're like, this makes money. Let's make more. Remember the story from it was Alien had come out and it was doing really well. It was like the late 70s. Star Wars was big. The Iran-Contra affair hadn't happened yet. America was still feeling good about itself. And James Cameron walked up to the producers and they're like, hey, I got a plan. And he wrote on the blackboard, Alien. And everybody's like, huh, we've already done that movie. And then he put an S on it, Aliens. They're like, go on. Drew 2 lines to make it look like a dollar sign. And they're like, holy shit, make the movie. And he made it. And it was, the thing made like, he spent 18 million on it and it made something like 120 million back. And that's just box office. This thing sold more DVDs, VHS, and syndication licenses than you'd ever believe. This thing made so much money. It made so much money. They made another like 17 Aliens films, 17 video games, God knows how many comics, and it's all been a complete downward spiral of nonsense and bullshit, and nobody cared. And it still made enough money to make up for all that stuff. So we're talking about Aliens because tomorrow on the Ohrian channel, Aliens is coming out. That was the teaser. That was the trailer. As always, by the way, side note, Jake Long in Softbone, my new cyberpunk story, is going to be out hopefully soon. I was supposed to get the final manuscript back a couple weeks ago, but things got busy. Supposedly it's going to be here at the end of the weekend, so it'll be great. Any final changes I have to do, and then we'll get it out. Cover's done. The graphic design is all set up. All that's missing is the finished product. So it's going to be great. Sign on to the Substack. You'll see more about it, and you're going to see that I'm not the critical drinker. While I am critical of good storytelling, I also can tell a good story. I'm not going to waste your time and money. Who'da thunk? How novel. So Aliens made a shit ton of money, and there was some things that they did that I don't think people knew why it was good at the time, because like special effects were still new and hasn't come out yet. But it's about I always talk about verisimilitude, and this is not that. This is more stylistic via technical limitation. You're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Bear with me here. Star Wars, Aliens, The Thing, they didn't have high-tech special effects. When you look at computer CGI stuff that was done in Aliens, you get like the laptop. Remember the laptop with the LCD display? For Star Wars, you get the scene of like the plans for the Death Star. It's essentially like really cheap CGI, wireframe stuff at best, right? Which is fine. It's the limitations of the area, and they're like, well, we can't make this realistic, so we have to have like a viable reason for it to be in there. Absolutely do it. What do they do for the aliens? They took that H.R. Geiger vibe and they put like vacuum tubes and slime and shiny carcass, make them look like giant beetles, give them claws, stuff like that, because you had to put a guy in a suit, so they had to look vaguely humanoid. And you have all these restrictions, and the thing about restrictions is it increases creativity. I've told the story probably 4 times. I'm gonna tell it again, where I was in my fine art class back in my first time being in university, and the teacher would show us an example. He's like, just paint something. You had an hour, paint something, bring it to the class. So we sat there, most people sat there for like 20, 30 minutes staring at a blank canvas. And then finally we started figuring out, and what ended up happening was most guys would paint cars, most girls would paint horses, and the occasional person would paint a giant eyeball. It was all boring, it was all derivative, it all looked the same. It's basically the original AI art in the 90s. Then, the next week during the workshop, he's like, I want you to make, and I can't remember what it was exactly, but like make an impressionist piece based on this, like have some rotting fruit in there and this. He gave us a bunch of restrictions. Within 5 minutes, people had their sketches ready and they were starting to paint. And then by the time the paints were finished, you had a much larger variety, a diversity of style. And so restriction breeds creativity. You need that. That's the problem. And that's why those movies will be better than the stuff coming out now, because now there's no restriction. Disney invented that giant circular green screen room, so you can literally do anything and be anywhere with like a rear projection screen. And CG can make anything possible, and it looks realistic enough, but that's the problem. When you have no limitations, you just end up with weird shit. Null, €10 super chat. The movies I grew up with. As you should. And here's the thing. Most people get like, oh, it's just because it's what you grew up with. That's why you're nostalgic. It's not nostalgia. I get it. A lot of people have that. If you play like old Nintendo 8-bit games, you're probably going to have a lot of nostalgia for stuff that does not hold up in the current day. But this is the Super Nintendo, the PlayStation 1 era, where you really were in the perfect era for these things to come out. So it's not nostalgia. You just were born at the perfect time to have nostalgia for the greatest. Anywho, so back to Aliens. So you have like this very specific set of special practical effects based on the technological limitations of the era. Alien, for example, the original movie, they had a lot of it in the darkness because the alien prosthetic was just not very realistic. And so if they do it in the dark and do a lot of shading effects, it hides their inability to make a good alien. Ended up increasing the atmosphere. Now here's why all that's important. This creates a vibe, a theme, a tone, a style, a specific style. Star Wars, another example for that. For when they were putting together all this stuff, what they would do is they would take a lot of model battleships, paste them together and whatever, because they had like no money. They didn't have CG saying we can make the battleship look like anything. They had to work with what they had. So they took like 15 versions of the USS Enterprise, Intrepid, and whatever, glued them together, made them look like a Death Star. The CG, the best they could do was like lasers and wireframes. So everything had to have buttons, and Alien, same thing. This stuff creates a vibe. This stuff creates a style. And then at the time, it's just, this is the best we got. But then as you advance past it and the technology moves on, it now becomes a thing. Anime, another great example where technical limitation became style. Video games, even that. Dude, Minecraft, what is Minecraft but not taking the style of the 16-bit era and applying it to like a brand new modern vector game? That's really it. Minecraft wouldn't have been as popular as it was if the Super Nintendo hadn't been doing that first. They basically made Super Mario World 3D, and everybody was loving it. And that's why when you see people come back and like all the newer Alien movies, they don't hit the same. The aliens are CG, the lasers are CG. There's touch screens everywhere now. You're in a spaceship that's got like condensation, which makes no sense. But they're like, yeah, we don't. Well, like it's a spaceship, sure, but we're making it look like like a cave, haunted cave. We need the water. Well, it's not very realistic, yeah, but it. And again, the better the technology gets, the further people get now from that stylistic vibe that the movies have created. And Aliens arguably is like the peak. Sequels usually are. Because the first one, it's always a risk when they have to develop all this new technology, these new ways of doing things, the specific technical limitations. The second one takes those first movie limitations, and then it's like, okay, let's continue that. And so it can refine on the genre and build on the genre. So the aliens from Aliens look the same as the alien from Alien, just a little bit better. So they can have them in a little bit better lighting. The CG, the computer effects look like computer effects. The laser guns look like laser guns. The ships look like ships. Everything is the same, just better. And then you get to Alien 3, and then you're like, oh. What can I say? Like, there's 100,000 videos on the internet about the problems with Alien 3. Just too many cooks in the kitchen. Sam Whiskey, $4.99 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Sir, last time I saw that shirt, it was hiking Mount Robson with a can of Diet Pepsi. That's funny. Mount Rob. Wait a minute. Are you talking about the Mount Robson in Victoria, BC? Holy jeez. Gonna go do 9 holes at Mount Doug. Yeah, classic example of it going wrong was the George Lucas prequels. He set a new standard in CG, but it's just splattered everywhere and overloads you. Yeah. When you can do everything, nothing looks good. So that's why Aliens, it's not coming back. It can't come back. Anyways, going back to my notes here. Oh, yeah. And another reason. So when things become popular, they become victims of their own success. The Alien franchise is a perfect example of this. The problem comes, and it always does, with nerds, with feminists, with autists, and with critical drinker. Every time. The feminists, yeah, because they want to make everything fake, gay, and retarded. We all kind of know that. They're like, you know what'd be great? More inclusivity. It's like, no, that's not really a storytelling element. That's just thinly veiled, sloppish propaganda, and nobody's gonna like that because it doesn't tell a good story. And you can't look the DEI stuff. You can't tell me you can't make a good DEI story because you did. The entirety of Deep Space Nine, with the exception of the Dominion War, was a perfect example of really great progressive DEI storytelling. 100%. You go back and watch it now, you're like, dude, Jeremy from the Quartering would have a field day ripping into this show, except for the fact that it was well written, so it's a good story. So there's that, and that's whatever. That's something that could be fixed. I think one thing you can't fix, though, are the fans. The nerdish fans. They ruin it because they love to systematize it. Oh, it's so brutal. So did you know the alien didn't actually have a name? They have like a designation on the little the company things, but that's it. They don't have a name. And you may be thinking, actually, it's called a xenomorph. It's not. It's not. The word xenomorph didn't even come about until the second film. And they weren't actually calling it a xenomorph. Xenomorph was a classification. Bug hunt. In other words, fighting aliens that don't look like humans. A xenomorph. And they're like, yeah, so we're on a planet. We have an expected xenomorph. It's not, yeah. It's not a brand name. It's a classification. Anyways, nerds saw that and like, well, let's call it a xenomorph now. And now it's a xenomorph. And now they're like, well, the queen was a different one. And the aliens were a different one. And the eggs are a different one. How many other different ones are there? And what did they start doing? They started adding like a preacher, Deckard. I can't remember all the stupid names. There is so many hundreds of like alien videos talking about is this variation, is this one from Aliens 3 was an alien from a dog. It turns out they pick up the thing and they over explain it. And then the problem with over explaining is now you're in this box. So now the alien takes on the DNA of the thing that it does the chest bursting from. Now, if you need the story to have a certain type of alien, you can't do that. Because the nerds are like, no. It's got to have the DNA of what you take on. So you have to, like, if you want, like, a big hulking alien, you need to put a water buffalo in the middle of a spaceship some fucking reason. And now it looks stupid. And that's the way lore and canon become a constraint, and not in the good creative way, but in a world-limiting way. The first one and the second one didn't have that problem. The first one was just like, it's an alien. Where did it come from? I don't know, some ship on a planet. Like, they went out of their way to not explain it. There is a ship on a planet we are mining. Why is the ship there? I don't know. Is it native to the planet? I don't think so. Well, what's in there right now? You see a goofy engineer in a thing. You're like, what is that? I don't know. See a bunch of eggs. What the fuck is that? They don't explain shit. You don't find out where the eggs came from. You don't find out where the aliens came from. It just sucks onto a guy. It comes out of his chest. It starts eating people and growing, and that's it. It grew fast. But that's all you know about it. You barely even see the thing. In the second one, they do a little bit. Because it's mostly the same thing. They go back to that planet. Turns out all the rest of the eggs started latching onto the people. And they're like, oh, that sucks. And the only difference there is, well, if there's eggs, somebody must be laying them. There's got to be a queen. Some kind of chick alien. And they provide a chick alien laying the eggs. And that was it. That was all they explained, is that the eggs came from an alien that was laying eggs. And it's big, because the eggs are big. Like, you can work with that. You can work with that. And then in the third one, they start talking about... I don't think they really explain much either, which is fine. But then afterwards, oh my god, like with the paramecium or whatever they call the other one. And it could have been good. Dude, like, from the vibes of the Prometheus, I want to like that movie so bad. I enjoy the aesthetic to it. I enjoy where they try to do that Blade Runner Dune 1984 thing where they make it so boring and convolutedly highbrow that it kind of takes on its own vibe. It's like the movie you fall asleep watching as like a comfort food. I fucking love that stuff, but they just ruin it by over explaining the aliens there. It's like, well, look at this little dot here and this here, and there's 500 million things now, and now you have to deal with it. And I'm just like, I'm out of it. Oh shit. All right, Sam Whiskey, $4.99 super chat. Hey Couch, will Ohrian review the movie F Folks? It kicked off the 80s action genre. I don't know about that. Let me see. First off, this is a movie I've never heard of. Why does it say North Sea Hijack? All right, you got the James Bond I don't like. Roger Moore. When terrorists take over 2 oil rigs and threaten to blow them up, if the demands are not met, an centric terrorism volunteers a commando unit to stop them. Oh, this isn't even new to the genre. It's an interesting one. Because this came out, what, 1980? 1980. Yeah, so there's 70s action films that are following on this one already. You got a lot of the Chuck Norris stuff, and I think, was Chuck Norris... I think he popped up. 1 second here. I want to start sounding... See, the problem is, with me, I don't... I'm not trying to autist this stuff, where I have to, like, do an entomology of how the movie got from here to there. I'm pretty sure Chuck Norris was doing action in the 70s, though. Excuse me. Way of the Dragon, 72. Student Teachers, Yellow-Faced Tigers. Good Guys Wear Black. Was it Good Guys Wear Black? Force of One. The Octagon. Hold on a second here. Yeah. 80s action. Good Guys Wear Black, 1978. 1979, A Force of One, when the detectives of an undercover police unit are mysteriously killed by a martial artist, a professional kickboxer asked to assist them. Delta Force was the one I remember, and Missing in Action. Okay, Missing in Action, that is like 1984. All right, fair enough. I don't know if it started it. Everything is kind of on a spectrum too, so you kind of have to almost just pick an arbitrary place to cut it off. Sam Whiskey, $4.99 super chat. No 2001 Space Odyssey. No Space 1999. No Space 1999. No Star Wars. No Star Wars. No Alien. What the? Oh, I think I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, everything follows. You can go that far. If you want to go that far, I'll bring it all the way back to like Buck Rogers. I actually have a Flash Gordon one coming up, and it'll be in about a month. My backlog's kicking up, where you don't get Star Wars without Buck Rogers, because Buck Rogers came out in the 1930s, because Sherlock Holmes was popular in the 1890s. And that generation wanted a new one. They have your Doc Savages, you have all of that stuff. And then the war happened, the war got back. Doc Savage, super popular. Buck Rogers, super popular. So they made Flash Gordon, because Buck Rogers was popular. And if you're going to have a Marvel, you got to have a DC. Fast forward 50 years, 40 years, whatever. Lucas loved the action-adventure serials of the 1950s he grew up watching. So he's like, I want to make a Flash Gordon. And they said, no, you can't have the rights to it. So he made Star Wars instead. So yeah, and that's why it's really hard to say this is the first of this. This is the first of this, because everything is based on everything else. It is a spider web of interconnected stuff. And another good example, I know we're supposed to be talking about aliens, but we're riffing on Star Wars just one more time. The best part about Star Wars is it was people that were raised on the action-adventure serials based on the comics of the 1930s, watching the serials in the nickel theaters in the 1950s, who wanted to make samurai film, western, science fiction, Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers. Like, that was all their inspirations. And then that's how they made Star Wars. And then the problem with the Star Wars, once it started to suck, is it was people who were fans of Star Wars. You got that synthesis of multiple genres mixed together, and then you got people who just keep photocopying it until we're at where we're at now, where you have Bill fucking Burr talking about socialism with a laser rifle. And yes, Remo Williams. To be fair, that is on my list, by the way. The Ohrian list is Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. I would say, what's that other one? Not Enter the Dragon, the one making fun of it. The First Dragon? Or the Last Dragon? I think it's Last Dragon. Yeah, The Last Dragon. So in the sense that The Last Dragon is a satirical take on the Kung Fu films in the 1970s built in the 1980s, Remo Williams is the Last Dragon to all of like the war films of the 70s and 80s. It's really good. It's got like the hero's journey, trained like Kickboxer and Bloodsport. It's essentially a satire of them, but it came out earlier. Yeah, there you go. Fred Ward, Joel Grey. It's got the Catherine Janeway chick, too. She's the romantic lead in The Adventure Begins. There was supposed to be a sequel to it. They never did do it, though. Fred Ward, deceptively good actor. Didn't get nearly enough credit. He did The Naked Gun. Like, action comedy, Fred Ward's probably the man when it comes to it. Anyways, back to Aliens. Where did I leave off? Making the original something new. Yeah, it's something else that I think a lot of people don't appreciate. Ah, damn it. Another super chat. Hexus, $1.99 super chat. Are you an Akira Kurosawa fan, Couch? I loved Seven Samurai. I was a huge fan of it. I am a Kurosawa fan. Here's the problem. Kurosawa is like Stanley Kubrick. Great director, great films. I hate film nerds that are talking incessantly about Kurosawa and Kubrick. Like, I don't want to do a Kubrick film on this one because it's like I have to compete against the autist of the autist. And it's the same thing with Kurosawa, which is too bad because I would actually love doing some of this stuff. Like, you'd be surprised how many people have just like stolen and inspired from him wholesale. No, don't be sorry. It's a super chat. We're engaging. That's the point of this thing, right? If I just wanted to stick to a script, I would have made this pre-recorded. It's all good. So yeah, hopefully that answers it. And I might, like, as I run out of films, I'll probably have to dip into the Kubrick and the Kurosawa and I might even do some like random old weird shit, but we'll see. We got a long ways to go until there. The new Spaceballs 2 promo came out. Yeah, I saw that. I'm reserving judgment. First off, I didn't know Mel Brooks was still alive. I thought he died. He's been making movies since the 60s. He's like 107 years old. I'm like, holy shit. Rick Moranis. They have to replace John Candy. I don't know how they're going to do that, but whatever. Anyways, so the other thing that Aliens did that was great, and we kind of lost it, we lost the technology, is they remade the movie as a sequel. What are you talking about? Well, Highlander 2, perfect example of it. You have Highlander, right? Immortal beings, chop each other's heads off. Everybody knows the lore. Everybody knows the movie. It's a wonderful tale. It's a simple tale. Highlander 2 was like, if Highlander didn't exist and they made the pitch, that would be Highlander 2. It ignored a lot of stuff. And this is the contradiction. So I talk about how you don't want movies to over-explain stuff, right? You don't have to. But they do. Oh, there we go. But they do. And it kind of ruins it. It ruined Aliens. But for Highlander, they over-explained it in like a completely different direction. They made the Highlanders time-traveling immortal gods or something like that. And it was like, they're not gods, but the magic they used to send them back to the future was what turned them into gods. It's completely weird shit, over-explained, but it works there. And so you got you thinking, how does it work in Highlander 2, but it doesn't work in Aliens? And the only answer I can come up with is they didn't do it autistically in Highlander 2. In Highlander 2, it's kind of like a hand-waving, you need an excuse to do this. All right, that's what we're going to do. They don't address it again. They don't talk about it again. They don't deal with it again. It doesn't exist. It's just needed to get you from A to B. And I think that's the big thing, is it's functional. For example, for Aliens, you didn't need a deacon or the other type. There's like 5 types of xenomorphs or whatever. You don't need all of them. You could have used a normal alien in that spot and not a deacon or not a weird little fucking alien morphy thing, and it would have still worked. So why did you do that? It was just convoluted explanation for the sake of it. But in the case of like Highlander 2, well, you kind of needed this. Why? Because there had to be a reason that they were fighting in this different place that you'd never seen before, and then they came here. And in the original movie, they technically made it like a space aliens. They were aliens coming from a different planet, which was stupid. The time-traveling one, Ancient Civilization, that one's like, yeah, whatever. For some reason, it just fits better. And a lot of the times for the ideas, you just kind of have to go with the one that works. Then they add the cyberpunk stuff, because once you're in the present, and once you have the premise of the Highlanders, you can do whatever you want, because they're living in their own world. You want to make it a cyberpunk dystopian hellhole? Go for it. Give her. That has nothing to do with how the Highlander stuff works. Don't have them fight in a church. Why not? Because that's one of the rules. Fair. As long as you establish it as a rule and there's consistency to it, it works. Yeah. So Aliens did do that. And I was talking before about how there is something that the movie Aliens does that I didn't know in 40 years of the movie being out, or however long it's been out for. 84. Yeah, 84. So it would have been like 40 years. When Ripley comes back and gets debriefed after the example of losing the mining ship 57 years ago, or however long it was. And I always thought it was the company didn't believe her. They think she's lying. They think she's making it up. They think she destroyed a $40 million piece of equipment and it's going to cost her. Somebody's like, you realize, like, that was the point where they realized, like, where you knew the company knew. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Because they had a bunch of documentation. The android was sending them off to the home base about the xenomorph, how to capture it, and they knew all this stuff. So they knew. So why were they doing the rigmarole of the investigation and that? It's like, well, they were just told, shut the shit down. We got the colonists there, waiting for the aliens to take over, then we're going to bring them back. And that's why they sent Burke over there as well. So the whole thing, it's not that they didn't believe Ripley. They knew she was 100% right. They just wanted to keep this quiet because they didn't want the Tyrell Corporation from taking it. What do you mean? You mean from Blade Runner? Yeah, apparently. And this is more so one of those like fantastical rumors that you can't confirm or deny, but it sounds good, so I'm choosing to believe it. Where Blade Runner and aliens are in the same shared universe. So like these cyberpunk dystopian hellhole mega corporations. Tyrell Corporation and what's the one from Aliens? I cannot remember the Aliens company. Does anybody remember in the chat? Saw the documentary Aliens Expanded yesterday, learned a few things. Yeah, and see, now I don't focus on that stuff on the channel, but I do find it interesting. At the same time, I find it more interesting than a breakdown of the 18 different types of alien biology. This is where the third heart is. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about that. But yeah, somebody else here in the chat was talking about the adding more context to the motherly things, and this is the Carpenter. But before I finish that, I'm going to finish off this thought. Yeah, so Aliens, they took the idea of aliens and they remade it as if the first aliens didn't exist, other than as like a backstory. I'm like, that's perfect. I think more movies should do that. The Avengers and the whole Marvel Universe stuff has just ruined a generation of filmmakers because they think they need to have a fleshed out and consistent cinematic universe for their movies. No, we're going to have the Justice League, and the Justice League has to be tied in with all this stuff, and we're going to do John Wick, but John Wick needs to be tied in with all this stuff, and then everything has to mix together. It's like you're not making a movie. You're making an autistic encyclopedia of some world you just invented. And don't get me wrong, there is Tolkien fans to this day who do that shit with Tolkien. Giver. There is Star Wars fans to this day that, like, I can tell you every nook and cranny of an AT-AT walker, and you're just like, I can tell you what a vagina smells like. We are not the same. There is those kind of people, and I get it, and I get there's a love of it, and I get there's a thing of it. Warhammer can have them. For movies, though, it doesn't make good movies. It just makes a good marketing pitch for, like, merch for a fan base. And if that's what you need to do to sell merch, fill your boots. But don't do that to make movies. You just ruin the movies. You ruin the movies. Have it as a supplemental thing. Don't pander to it. Don't focus on it. In fact, if anything, ignore it from the movie side of things. Let the merch guys handle it. Waytani, or Wayland Corporation. Thank you very much. Leyland Wutani. Or Wayland? Isn't it Wutani? Yeah, it's Wutani. Wayland Yutani. That's the one. So what we got here? Remake the original as something new. Lore and canon become a constraint. Oh, the mama's boy stuff. Why'd you call him a mama's boy? It's because he is. I'm about to ruin a lot of Cameron films for you. Do you know Cameron? And I don't know how else to say this other than to say it as acerbically as possible. But he is the baby boomer male feminist ally director. I'm not saying he's not talented. I'm not saying he's good at what he does. But if you watch his films, they tap into this like hippy dippy feminist boomer idea. Everything. Terminator 2, perfect example. What is Terminator 2? Yeah, there's the story of the Terminator, there's the saving the earth. But when you look at it as a story, what is this? It is a single mom with a troubled child who didn't have a father figure in his house. She is on a quest to find him the best stepdad ever. And she finds it in a robot. Because the robot doesn't try to sleep with her. He defends the son for no reason other than he's a special little boy who's going to save the universe. Sacrifices himself for it. What is that? But if not like the Karen, the frigid, butch, feminist, single mother wet dream. But they put enough lasers and robots and chrome T-1000 in there to distract you from that. Everything. And you're like, holy shit, you're right. Yeah, it's the story of a divorced single mom. Don't forget, she only knew Reese for like a day before she started schlepping him. Then he got killed. Same thing. Avatar is another same thing. It's like the hippies in the jungle with their drugs and the evil corporations and that stuff. And Aliens is the same thing. Ripley. They added some scenes, and I love the director's cut for this because it shows the true vision, which is why I know what I'm fucking talking about. She was on the Nostromo for 50 years on the escape pod until they found her, right? And it's weird because I didn't see it on the director's cut, but I do remember it. It must have been the theatrical cut. I don't think I'm misremembering this, but so her daughter is just died when she got back. So it was too late. Her kids died. And if I remember correctly, the extra long cryo freeze that she was in ruined her plumbing. So she became sterile. And there was like, I specifically remember a scene where she had a meltdown over this. It's like a character thing. It's like finding out she no longer has her feminine identity. She cannot be a woman because she can't bear anymore. I'm like, that's fucking interesting. And you put that in like a male-centric macho action movie. Holy shit. What else did they do? Collaborative Learning is a YouTube channel I reference on it too. He's like really good on this stuff. He's kind of doing what I do, but he does it more academically. Really worth a watch. He's one of the guys that'll do the Kubrick stuff better than I could. But he brings up like all these different like feminist elements you didn't know you had. Case in point, when you first get in there, the Marines, right? They're all cocky. They talk a lot of shit. They're kind of like what you would think of as macho Marines, but they're kind of more like a childhood version of that. Like, dude, if I was 13, this would go so hard. And then what happens? As soon as they run into real trouble, they turn into like little scared bitches. They're crying. They're whining. It's over, man. Game over. And that's the idea that the scared little girl in the loading dock, she had to kind of step up and be the man. The officer panics and freaks out. Ripley, the PTSD victim, give me the truck. And she just starts running over aliens, right? Men are stupid. Men are cowardly. They're masculized. Life is a facade. But she's got it. And the worst part is, well, I guess, or not worst, but I guess the best part is it's well written enough that you just go with it. It's like, yeah, sure. Why not? There's room for all kinds of stuff. There's room for the feminist trope to make fun of the hardcore facade masculinity guys. They're characters, right? And that's a realistic sounding character. They have a realistic arc. They do things that make sense in that world. And so you don't even think about it, nor should you. I don't want to give this any culture war beef because there's no culture war beef. It's just do it right. If you want to argue that they don't make any like stereotypical good hardcore action type things anymore, that's a case you can make, but there's not enough alien movies out there for you to think that. Yeah, I got in touch with her inner forklift. And that's what happened. Like when you first start it, what happens? She's lost her identity, lost her plumbing, lost her daughter. PTSD from this situation here. She's basically a fucking mess. She's working in a loading dock. She's the feminist, like, boss bitch archetype. I'm working in a loading dock. I'm earning good money. Finally, she's like, no, man, this isn't right. I can't get past the alien thing, so I'm going to go with you. We're going to sort this out. And she gets down there. She's scared and she's timid. And then you see she's got potential that first time when she drives the truck in there to save the group. Then she finds Newt. Oh, she found Newt. All of a sudden, it's like a second chance. It's a chance for me to pick up that mantlehood of mother, the one that I've lost from before. And then that becomes her driving force. Yeah, you could always just say, I just want to survive. And that works. But this is much better. It's not just about surviving. It's about I have to save the daughter here that I couldn't when I was in cryo freeze and I lost my other daughter. And that's when you see at the end, when Newt falls down the thing, gets caught in the swamp, gets kidnapped by the alien. She's like, no, I'm going back for her. And you went from a chick who couldn't even sleep because of thinking about these aliens to the point that she's like, nope, I am walking up to that queen with a shotgun. I don't give a fuck. You give me that girl back, you bitch. And they have the little mom off there where she's like, I'll torch your fucking eggs. And the alien's like, all right, back off, guys. Don't eat her yet. Take your kid. Get the fuck out. And then Ripley's like, you know what? Fuck your eggs. Fuck it. Does it anyway. Oh, dude, she was pissed. And then you think that's kind of a bitchy thing to do. And yeah, chicks can't get along. What happens? Gets back to the ship. The queen's like, no. I'm coming with. He comes over there, fucks up his android, leaves Ripley alone. I'm going after your kid as revenge. And you can see an arc, a revenge arc in the villain. And I was like, holy shit, that's pretty good. So what you have is like this hyper feminine character arc. Multiple characters. Multiple like feminist wet dreams of guys that couldn't cut it. You ever get mistaken for a man, Vasquez? No, have you? Oh, whoa. And then what happens at the end? The feminist boss bitch gets him in the end because you know what? That boss bitch job she had at the loading dock earlier that they gave foreshadowing. Hey, what can I do for you here? Well, I can help you run the miner thing. Probably the most famous line in science fiction. I would argue it's probably more famous than the Han Solo's "I know." Get away from her, you bitch. I was like, damn it, that line slaps. Line fucking slaps. What is it called when you're both fascinated and repulsed at once? I'm sure there's a word for it. It's like the Slanesh Warhammer thing. He likes making things hypersexual, but also like Lovecraftian. It's such a unique thing. The egg opened, the queen broke the deal. That's why Ripley started cooking eggs. Was it? Oh, that's right. You're right. It was because the one started popping open. And it was, I guess you could say that the queen broke the deal, but I think it's kind of just because the eggs, like she has no control over when the eggs open and hatch and do their thing. So I don't know if it's so much that she broke the deal, but you do have a point. It was there. It's like, well, sorry, babe. It's your own fault. That was more of just like a coincidence. But yeah, I get what you're saying. That actually makes more sense. So yeah, the story is of a sterile mom adopting a kid and rekindling her love of motherhood and letting go of the feminist thing. And sure enough, she's got like and it's like the same theme from Terminator, by the way. In the same way I talked about the T-800, Schwarzenegger being the stepdad that's the dad that stepped up, not the stepdad. Same thing here with the android. After all is said and done, she gets to sleep around with, and it's the same guy who plays Kyle Reese. So she gets to have him as like the surrogate Chad, who's like, critically wounded. She has to save him. But then she gets like the stepdad with the android. He basically sacrificed himself to protect all of them. Which was nice. And to be fair, that was one nice thing too, because the last android was obviously a psychopath and tried to kill all the crew. And this one's like, oh, they've added a new subroutine that makes us incapable of killing. And then, oh, thank God that came in handy at the end here because I really needed you not to kill us and try to take the android. Yeah. But it's just great. And there's so many levels you can enjoy it on. You can enjoy it on this level. You can actually watch you like really getting into all this stuff that would have been woke DEI slop today. And you're like, dude, if they would just make woke DEI slop like this, I would sign up for it. And you're like, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? If the story is well told, you understand that wrestling isn't real. You understand the verisimilitude. You can just sit back and enjoy it. It's a moral message that I don't like, I don't agree with, but the fucking story bangs. You're like, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you get a mama's boy. Give him some plumbing, give him some tubes, give him some practical effects. Give him a good story and a decent premise and don't autist it too much and you can make magic. You can make magic. Anyways, so that's it. If you haven't watched Aliens, I would strongly suggest you do. Marty, I saw you in here saying you couldn't. Does it count if you pay for the VJ? I just saw that now. Killing me, sirs. Killing me. As an audience, we experience time jumps. Ripley goes through all of this in months. Sorry if you said that I joined late. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you do. But that's good storytelling. You have to... So obviously in real life, everything has to follow the same cadence. It's got time, right? Seconds, minutes, hours, whatever. Storytelling doesn't have to do that. Storytelling is able to jump because the beats of a story aren't necessarily temporal. In my first book, Dog Walker, absolutely. This happens in like a year. And the story just skips months. Years in some cases. It jumps forward, it jumps back. Because thematically, the beats of a story happening in a certain order, that has to happen. And while you can have it happen in sequence, and some stories do really well for that, you don't necessarily have to. It's like you said, there's time jumps. So Ripley, when she first lands, it's a couple weeks of recovery, and then she gets the Weyland-Yutani investigation, and then she gets to work in a loading dock for a couple months, and then she comes back. But you skip out all the stuff that's not important. Like, you don't need to see her working in a loading dock. They actually found it more efficient if when you were establishing the Marines later on, to have her help out by showing she's got loading dock skills. So you can use it there. You don't have to show that scene there. And it's like really, really tight storytelling. It's very efficient. It's very good at what it does. It's a French New Wave concept. And I've talked about that a few times too. If you don't know, Before the French New Wave in the 60s, what they used to do is movies were more like theatrics, right? If somebody was moving from point A to point B, you would film him at point A, you would film him traveling to point B, and then you would film him at point B. And the idea that the temporal nature of the storytelling was integral to it. French New Wave came in, it's like, why do I need to show that? They call it shoe leather. In other words, like the walking from someplace, the leather on the bottom of your shoes. Why don't we just get rid of the shoe leather? So we'll just have them from here to here. Don't show this part. Why? Because people know that. Like I said, we all know how working in a shitty loading dock works. We don't need to see a scene where she's in a loading dock for 6 months. We don't need to see a scene where she has PTSD for 3 weeks straight. Just show her waking up in a cold sweat and then calling Burke to let her on the mission. You understand everything you need to know. What is the... And this is the part that I loved about good storytelling, and I wish they would still do it, but they don't. We just don't have the technology or the capability or the people, at least in Hollywood. In Jake Long's Softbone, which is coming out, it does have that. Thank God for me. Thank God for you. But maternal instinct not exclusive to breeders. Technically it is, because the word maternal, motherly. You might be thinking paternal, which would not be exclusive to people who can. There's a gendered thing to it, but whatever. What are they getting back here? Oh yeah, temporal. Good stories are like, how much of this, and if you've ever had to do a story, you'll know this yourself, where you're like, sometimes you're struggling. How can I make this a full-length story? And you don't know. So you have to like pad it, and you add stuff, and you add stuff, and you add stuff. And that's bad storytelling, because then it's a slog. Then it's just like padding out the runtime. A lot of movies do that. To be fair, it's something Ski School does, which is another movie that's coming out soon. It's like a screwball comedy, and they have like 3 scenes where it's just like a music video of people skiing, because they don't have a big enough story to fill it all up, and so they fill it with this stuff to make it cool. Granted, it fits with the theme of the movie, so it works for them, but in general, it's a bad idea if you don't have enough of a story to fill the time. But a good story fills all of that time. Characterization, backstory, character arcs. There's enough characters in a story that you can fill it out by giving every character an arc and intertwining them together, and some win, some lose. What makes them a good story is like, how much of this can we remove without anybody missing it? And this is one of those things that you'll learn from book writing. And it's probably the best advice I ever got. If somebody can skim, like if they can skip a paragraph that you wrote and not lose their place in the story, then get rid of the paragraph. If they can skip a page and not lose their place in the story, then you don't need that page. So just keep doing that. Keep getting rid of stuff. And I'm not saying anybody's perfect at it, but you treat it as like a guiding principle. Do you need this? If I get rid of this, will people still not understand? Heck, Dog Walker's a perfect example for this. Anybody who read Fuck Files, which was my very, very first one, they'll recognize a lot of the themes from that, which is like a nonfiction book, in this, which is a fiction book. And you're like, hey, where's the flight attendant? Where is the single mom? Where is this? Where is that? And I'm like, yeah, they didn't work for the story, so I got rid of them. The story could have been twice as long, had all those stories in. You wouldn't learn nearly as much about it, because every individual experience in there is based on a character developing his arc. Anyways, so that's all I got for you guys. Enjoy yourselves. I think they're doing a Rule Zero podcast. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it or not, but I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers. Oh, Sunday. I think it's 10 o'clock. Just watch it. You'll love it. Thanks for sticking around, by the way. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience. And I appreciate your good taste in fine movies, sirs.